Well, I think the similarities were their leadership skills. They both made guys better. They both made their teammates better. They both cared about nothing but winning. You know, they didn't care about individual stats and MVP trophies and none of that stuff. They cared about winning. They both had incredible basketball IQs. They both were unbelievable on the court as far as seeing the game and making passes that you just didn't see. You know, neither one could jump very high.
And then you had all your media naysayers. Oh, scoring champion can't win an NBA title, or you know, you're not as good as Magic Johnson. You're not as good as Larry Bird. You're good, but you're not as good as those guys. You know, I had to listen to all this, and that put so much wood on that fire that it kept me each and every day trying to get better as a basketball player.
I'll go first. Get back here and be quiet. Hold this for me. I'm busy. Lifetime Achievement Award. That means you've been around a long time. In Magic's case, probably a little too long.
Before Michael Jordan took flight, and before LeBron James picked up the crown, the NBA belonged to two names, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Their rivalry wasn't just the headline of the 1980s, it was the engine that pushed the league into a new era. East versus West, Showtime versus blue-collar grit. One brought flash and flair, the other fire and fundamentals. But both brought results. They weren't just great individually. Together, they raised the bar. They battled for titles, traded MVPs, and turned every Celtics-Lakers matchup into a must-watch game. And whether you were a teammate, an opponent, or a fan watching from the stands, you had to choose a side. This wasn't just a rivalry between two players. It was two entire franchises, fan bases, and playing styles colliding every year with real stakes on the line. Magic and Bird didn't just face off in highlight clips. They met in the finals, again and again, when everything mattered. Their battles weren't about drama or hype. They were about pride, execution, and proving who could lead their team to the top when the pressure was at its peak. Today, we turn the mic to the legends who lived it, Hall of Famers, former champions, players who guarded them, and modern stars who grew up studying their games. Who gets the edge? Who left the bigger impact? Let's hear what the legends think. Before the Magic versus Bird rivalry fully took over the NBA, Pete Maravich was already known as one of the most creative and skilled guards the league had ever seen. A true showman in his own right. Pistol Pete had an eye for players who were different. The ones who impacted winning without having to be the fastest or the most athletic guy on the floor. That's exactly how he saw Larry Bird.
Well, gee whiz, Larry Bird, I think is the best. Larry's not really the best rebounder in the NBA. He's not the best passer, I don't think. He's not the best dribbler. He's not the best shooter. He's not the best scorer. He's just the very best.
For Maravich, Bird's greatness wasn't about topping every category on paper. It was about how everything fit together. Larry might not have been number one in any single skill, but when you watched him play, the result was always the same. It wasn't just about the numbers or the highlight plays. Bird had a way of controlling the flow of a game without needing to dominate the ball or rely on athleticism. He played smart, made others better, and took pride in outthinking opponents just as much as outplaying them. For a basketball purist like Pete Maravich, that's what set Bird apart. Chris Webber has played alongside and against some of the most talented players the league has ever seen. As a big man with a high IQ and great passing ability, Webber always appreciated players who could see the game a step ahead. So when he's asked who he'd pick to start a team with, especially at the point guard spot, he doesn't go with the obvious scoring names. Instead, he looks at the kind of player who could lead, adapt, and do whatever his team needed to win.
For me, it's the fact of what you guys just brought up, who wants to play with other people on the team. And when I think of Magic Johnson, if I'm starting my team with the point guard that sat in the captain's chair and played center in every position in the game in the championship, there's no way I'm going against Magic.
Webber is talking about the 1980 finals, the moment when a rookie Magic stepped in for an injured Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and played every position on the floor. That performance, where he scored 42 points, grabbed 15 rebounds, and ran the offense like a veteran, left a lasting mark on the league. To Webber, that kind of versatility is what separates Magic from the rest. It wasn't just a one-time thing. Magic played with the same poise and confidence his entire career. Whether he was passing to a Hall of Famer or a role player, he made sure everyone was involved. Webber values that kind of unselfishness because it leads to team success. For him, Magic checks every box you could want in a franchise cornerstone. Reggie Miller is one of the most respected shooters the NBA has ever seen. He played with toughness, confidence, and a sharp mind, and he knows greatness when he sees it. When asked to weigh in on Magic versus Bird, Reggie didn't hesitate. He went with the player who, in his eyes, could thrive even more in today's game.
Oh, I gotta go with Larry Joe. In today's rules, you can't touch him.
Yeah.
And Larry, so this is 27, 28-year-old Larry and 27, 28-year-old LeBron, right? Or is he 30 now, right? 30.
Yeah.
So 30-year-old Larry, 30-year-old LeBron.
Reggie isn't just making a casual pick. He's doing the math in his head, matching Bird up with modern greats and still giving him the edge. In an era where defenders can't put hands on you, Reggie believes Bird would be even more dangerous. He could already shoot, pass, and rebound with the best of them. Take away the physical defense, and you're giving him even more room to operate. What stands out about Reggie's comment is the confidence in his tone. This isn't just nostalgia. It's one of the greatest shooters of all time giving full credit to a guy who did everything on the floor and talked trash while doing it. Reggie knows what it takes to be elite, and when he says Larry would dominate today's game, it carries weight. Lou Williams played 17 seasons in the league and earned the respect of players and coaches for his scoring, poise, and basketball IQ. He's seen greatness up close, but when the Magic versus Bird conversation comes up, Williams takes a step back and looks at the full picture. Not just what happened on the court, but what happened after.
Listen, I can buy that, especially like Magic Johnson is still a champion to this day. He's still impacting winning with the Los Angeles Dodgers, what he's been able to add to the Washington Commanders. Like, wherever this guy goes, he wins, and he changes culture. So I'm buying that. Everything that Magic Johnson has been able to do on the court, off the court, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, all wins across the board. I'm buying it.
For Williams, Magic's influence goes way beyond basketball. He's looking at Magic as a full-package leader, someone who didn't just win games, but built teams, set standards, and carried that same energy into ownership and business. That type of leadership doesn't fade after retirement. It keeps showing up, no matter the setting. This is what makes Williams' take different. He's not just comparing talent. He's measuring impact. Magic's ability to step into a room and change the direction of an entire organization, whether it's the Lakers, the Dodgers, or even an NFL franchise, speaks to something bigger. Winning followed Magic wherever he went. That kind of presence matters just as much as points and assists. Joe Dumars was part of the Bad Boy Pistons, a team built on toughness, defense, and never backing down. They went toe-to-toe with the best in the league, including multiple wars with the Boston Celtics. And even though the rivalry was intense, Joe never held back when it came to giving Larry Bird the respect he earned.
I said, yeah, all of that. I said, but please, let's not forget how incredible Bird and the Celtics were in their prime. I said, they were almost impossible to go in there and beat. And they said, why? I said, because you could not make a mistake with them. If you turn your head or you don't rotate right on time or whatever it was, those guys made you play, and it was him. Like, he was a savant on the court, like just a savant, like 2 plays ahead on everything.
For Joe, the difference with Bird was his mind. He wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the most athletic, but he played like he was 2 steps ahead of everyone else. You couldn't relax, even for a second. If you missed a rotation or let your focus slip, Bird was going to find the gap and make you pay for it. Coming from someone who prided himself on defense, that's high praise. The Pistons were known for shutting down stars, but Bird gave them more trouble than almost anyone. He wasn't just hard to guard, he forced you to play perfect basketball. And in the 1980s, when the Celtics were at full strength, that pressure never let up. John Salley was right in the middle of the Magic versus Bird era, playing on a Pistons team that had to go through both legends to win a championship. He's faced them, he's studied them, and when it comes to who impressed him the most, he doesn't waste time thinking it over.
Where does Magic Johnson fit in all of that?
Best player to ever play.
Magic. I was going to bring Magic.
I said the best player I've ever seen was Magic at 6'9".
For John, Magic wasn't just a great point guard. He was the total package. He had size, vision, leadership, and control. Most players are great at 1 or 2 things. Magic could do everything. And he did it with confidence and poise that made the game look easy, even when it wasn't. John isn't someone who throws out big statements casually. He played alongside legends and went head-to-head with the best in the league. When he calls Magic the best player he's ever seen, it's not just about highlights, it's about the way Magic affected every game, every possession, and every player on the court. At 6'9", Magic could run the team like a guard and dominate matchups like a forward. That versatility left an impression that never faded. Michael Cooper played alongside Magic Johnson during the Showtime Lakers era, but he also spent years going head-to-head with Larry Bird in the NBA Finals. As a defensive specialist, Michael was often the one asked to try to slow Bird down, a job that was easier said than done. And even after all those battles, Cooper has no problem admitting what Bird brought to the game.
I think enough years have gone by that people like myself, guys like Magic and Kareem and James Worthy, are finally willing to admit that Larry Bird is the greatest in respect to the most complete player the NBA has ever seen. His fundamental game was basically flawless. On top of that, he was like a savant out there.
Coming from someone who won championships and guarded Hall of Famers, that kind of praise means something. Cooper isn't just saying Bird was great. He's saying he was complete, no major weaknesses, no wasted movement, no mental lapses. Every part of his game was sharp, and he used it all to win. When a guy like Cooper calls you a savant, that's not about hype. That's about knowing the game at a different level. Cooper saw it up close, Bird read plays before they happened, picked apart defenses, and never let you off the hook. That's the kind of respect that lasts long after the final buzzer. During a live episode of First Take, Stephen A. Smith interrupted the conversation to share a message he had received. The debate was heating up around the greatest point guard of all time, and Smith said someone had just texted him directly, someone who had earned the right to speak on greatness. No one knew who it was at first. Then he read the message out loud.
Good morning, sir. Although greatest of anything is always a debate, I beg to differ on greatest point guard of all time. Magic Johnson is easily the best point guard of all time. You must define point guard to really have a serious debate. Steph Curry is very close, but not in front of Magic. Steph Curry is by far the best shooter of all time, but Magic Johnson invented the triple-double. It's a point guard stat, to be honest. Magic was the best.
He revealed Michael Jordan sent it. It wasn't just a quick reaction. It was a detailed, thought-out response from someone who understands what it means to dominate the game. Jordan gave Curry his flowers, but made it clear, when it comes to the best point guard ever, Magic Johnson is still the one to beat. And coming from Michael Jordan, that's not just another opinion, that's a message from the top. Hearing that from Jordan gave the conversation new weight. It wasn't just fans or analysts debating anymore, it was the man himself stepping in to make sure the record was clear. And the way he broke it down showed exactly how much thought he had put into it. For Jordan, Magic wasn't just the best point guard. He was the one who defined the position for everyone who came after. Shaquille O'Neal has always respected the players who came before him. He studied the game. He understood how it evolved. And when it comes to who changed the point guard position forever, Shaq doesn't hesitate.
For me, it would have to be Magic Johnson, because if you look at the traditional point guard, they've always been not small, but smaller. You know, Magic was the first oversized guy that excelled at being a point guard. You know, he actually gave Chris and myself the confidence to be able to get the ball, take it off the glass, and go all the way.
For Shaq, Magic wasn't just a great passer. He was a blueprint, a player who made it acceptable and even expected for big men to grab a rebound and push the ball up the floor. That shift in freedom and confidence came from watching Magic do it first, at 6'9", and do it at the highest level. But Shaq also had something else to say about Larry Bird. He never faced Bird on the court, but the respect was still there, and it came from a more personal place.
Never really had a chance to play against Larry Bird, but I actually used to hate Larry Bird. I hated him. Because,
well, why?
I mean, because, well, not hate him, I was sort of like, you know, jealous of him, because he was a regular guy that did everything.
Shaq admits something most players wouldn't say out loud. It wasn't hate in the true sense, it was jealousy. Bird didn't look like a superstar in the way most people expected, but he did everything. He shot, passed, rebounded, competed, and won. That rubbed some guys the wrong way, not because they disliked him, but because they couldn't understand how he kept doing it. That kind of honesty shows just how much both Magic and Bird meant to players who came after them. They changed what was possible and earned the respect of legends who followed. Kobe Bryant grew up with Lakers legends on his wall, but one of them stood out above all the rest. Before he became one of the greatest players in franchise history, he was just a kid studying the man who ran the team before him. And that man was Magic Johnson.
I refuse to believe it because Magic is my hero. Like, I don't think you guys truly understand how much of a diehard fan I was, like a Laker fan. Like, dude, I was like, Magic was all over my wall. I used to wear really big knee pads because Magic wore really big knee pads. You know what I mean? I used to practice the baby hook, and so he is and always will be number one for me, always.
This wasn't about highlights or numbers. It was about identity. Kobe looked at Magic as more than just a basketball player. He saw someone who defined what it meant to be a Laker. That impact stayed with him throughout his career. The attention to detail, the way he carried himself, the ability to take over a game without forcing it, all of that came from Magic. Even after Kobe built his own legacy and won 5 championships, he never moved Magic from that number 1 spot. Because for Kobe, Magic wasn't just a hero from his childhood, he was the example that helped shape everything Kobe later became. After years of battling each other at the highest level, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird sat down side by side for a rare joint interview. They were asked a question fans had debated for decades. The moment was quiet, honest, and powerful.
Do you now, in your heart, believe you're the better player?
Actually, I've always said that I go by success, and he's won more championships, so I give him the nod.
Oh, well, being very gentlemanly. Magic, same question to you. Is Larry the better player?
I've always said that Larry was the better player.
Really?
Because he could do more, shoot from the outside, all those type of things. To us, really, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because what matters to me is that I played against the best. I got to know the man, Larry Bird, and that we got this friendship right now.
This was not about stats, not about MVPs, rings, or head-to-head matchups. It was about respect, about 2 competitors who pushed each other for over a decade and could now sit together, not as rivals, but as friends who understood exactly what they went through. In a league that often turns debates into arguments, Magic and Bird gave us something better. They reminded us that greatness isn't always about being better. Sometimes it's about making each other great. That mutual respect built on competition is what made their rivalry unforgettable, and what still makes it the standard for what a sports rivalry should look like. That moment between Magic and Larry wasn't just about 2 legends giving each other credit. It was a reflection of how much they shaped each other's legacies. Every championship chase, every finals matchup, every highlight, it all meant more because of who was standing on the other side. The competition made them sharper, the rivalry made them greater. And in the end, the respect made it unforgettable. They didn't need to declare a winner because, in many ways, they both were. Magic made the game more joyful, Larry made it more intense. Together, they brought out the best in the sport and in each other. And that's why players from every generation still point to them, not just as 2 of the best to ever do it, but as the duo that lifted the entire league. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird weren't just great players. They were 2 sides of the same story. They changed how the game was played, how it was watched, and how it was remembered. Their rivalry gave the NBA an identity. Their respect gave it heart. Decades later, the league still feels their impact, and players still chase the standard they set. You cannot talk about the history of basketball without talking about Magic and Bird. They were the bridge between the past and the future. Before them, the NBA was struggling for national attention. After them, it became a global game. Their battles brought in new fans, created unforgettable moments, and laid the groundwork for the league as we know it today. What made their rivalry different was how personal, yet professional it was. They wanted to beat each other every night. They competed with pride, intensity, and emotion. But when the game was over, there was mutual respect. That respect only grew over time. And by the end of their careers, it turned into a real friendship, built on everything they had pushed each other to become. One smiled through pressure, the other stared through it. But both won. Both delivered. And both left behind a legacy that every generation of fans and players continues to admire. So whether you pick Bird or Magic, Celtics or Lakers, the truth is that the game doesn't get one without the other. They defined an era, lifted the NBA to new heights, and gave the sport something even greater than highlights or trophies. They gave it meaning.